Veronica and Ryan, two high school students, talk about getting married and having a baby until Ryan weighs the benefits and costs of such a decision at this time in their lives. Veronica really hated her mom. She was unreasonable and just didn't understand her. But it wasn't always this way. Since Veronica's dad took off when she was 5, she and her mom had gotten along really well. Her mom worked different shifts at the grocery store, so Veronica took responsibility, helping out with her 2 younger brothers and making sure the house was clean. It had worked well until recently, when her mom seemed to be constantly on her case. Veronica and Ryan had been dating for about a year now, and they were truly in love. They were high school juniors and pretty good students. Ryan worked part-time at a garage. He was in an ROP program and figured he would go to mechanic school, and then they would get married and live happily ever after. Veronica couldn't wait. It wasn't that her mom was evil, she was just old-fashioned. She thought that Veronica shouldn't go out on school nights, and that she should be in by midnight on the weekend. That was too much. And her mom didn't like Ryan at all. He didn't have any ambition, he was lazy, he wasn't going to college, he had a tattoo and an earring, and he was white. She had a million reasons why she didn't like him. The simple fact was, she didn't like him. The final straw came the night Veronica got her tattoo. It was no big deal, just a little star on her ankle. She didn't think her mom would see it, but did she ever? Her mom was waiting up for her as usual when Veronica walked in. She had fallen asleep on the couch. Veronica came in quietly, turned off the lights, and covered her mom with the blanket. She almost made it out of the room when Ryan yelled from his car, "Veronica, I love you!" which woke up her mom. Maybe her mom was right. He wasn't so smart. Her mom bolted up and looked around the room. Veronica came in and sat next to her, and the two talked for a few minutes. Then Veronica made a major tactical error. She pulled her feet up onto the couch. She realized her mistake immediately as she watched her mom's eyes follow her feet. The look on her mom's face was indescribable. Shock, terror, shame, anger, and hurt. Then she did the worst thing she could have done. She started crying. When she regained control, she said the 8 words Veronica most dreaded. "We will talk about this in the morning." Veronica knew this was a big one. The next morning, Veronica pretended to be asleep for as long as possible. But when Juan and Jose turned on the TV and started punching each other and laughing, it was clear that she was awake. She got up, showered, dressed, and went into the kitchen, where her mother was giving her the silent treatment, which was always a bad sign. After a very quiet breakfast, her mom sat beside her and said, in a voice empty of all emotion, "Veronica, I have thought this over, and I have decided that you are grounded for a month, and you are not to see Ryan anymore." This was too much. She was 16 years old, a junior in high school, and she was not going to hear anything about being grounded. As for Ryan, she was in love. She and Ryan were going to get married someday, and her mother was not going to make that decision for her. She got up quietly, walked outside, and stood on the porch. Her mom yelled at her to come back in and clean up her dishes, but Veronica ignored her. If she wasn't going to be treated as an adult, she would live somewhere else where she would be. The rest of the weekend, Veronica sulked around the house. When Ryan called and she gave him the news, he just sort of laughed and asked, "What planet is your mom from?" Then he told her about his plans for Monday after school. While Veronica's mom was working, they would go to the donut shop and hang out for a few hours. Veronica thought it was a great idea and agreed. Monday after school, however, didn't work out quite as planned. Veronica's Aunt Grace met her as she walked out of her last class and actually escorted her to her car. Veronica was mortified. This was too much. Not only was she going to be in prison, but her jailers were going to escort her around. She called Ryan when she got home and discussed the situation. Veronica had a plan. She and Ryan would both leave their home and get a small place of their own. They would get married, have a baby, and collect welfare at first. Veronica knew she'd be a great mom, not like her own mother, whom she had begun calling Cruella. After they finished high school, she would go to computer school while somebody watched the baby. Ryan would go to mechanic school, and they would have a wonderful life. Then, after a while, if her mom wanted to speak to her again, Veronica would consider it. At the grocery store the next day, Veronica bumped into Paula. Now here was someone who could relate to Veronica's situation. Her baby was 8 months old, and she had done just fine. Veronica asked her how she was doing. "Okay, I guess," Paula answered. Then she walked away. Veronica hadn't noticed earlier, but Paula seemed sort of defeated. Her hair was a mess, and her clothes looked like she'd slept in them for lots of nights. She caught up to Paula and asked, "No, really, how are you doing?" "Why do you want to know?" "I'm just interested, that's all." Paula saw through it immediately. She and Veronica had never been friends, and this sudden interest obviously had something behind it. "I told you I'm okay," Paula said. Veronica broke down and explained her plan to Paula. She said that she thought Paula might be able to give her some advice. Paula just smiled and said 2 words. "Forget it." Veronica was surprised. She explained that she knew Paula had done this and it seemed to have worked out all right. Paula blew up. "All right? You don't have a clue what you're talking about. First, Jerome bails, and then I move in with my parents. At first they're ticked off, and then they get excited about the baby. Sabrina arrives, and they're very excited, and things go okay for a while. But then they get tired of raising another baby. I was raising her, but they were doing a lot of babysitting. Things get tense, and they finally tell me I have to move out. So I find a dump in a part of town you don't even want to know about, and it costs $600 a month. I get welfare payments of $800 and $200 worth of food stamps. I tried to go to school, but it didn't last long. I had to depend on other people for rides and babysitting, which didn't work out at all. I now have 4 unauthorized withdrawals from my 4 classes. My finances are a mess. I got 3 credit cards all maxed out. The collection agencies threatened to take me to court. Big deal, what would they get? If I get a job, I lose my welfare, and daycare would cost me about $600 a month. Minimum wage jobs don't pay enough to cover all of that, and most of them are part-time anyway, with no benefits. No boy will come near me with a baby, and even if one would, I still couldn't afford a babysitter. So we couldn't go anywhere. And my place is so bad, I wouldn't invite a dog there. I have enough to eat, sort of. But if Sabrina gets sick, I can't afford medicine. I thought I was going to get a really neat live doll, someone who would love me because I'm her mom and I would love her back, and it would be wonderful. But sometimes I don't even like her. Most nights I'm up half the night with her. I hate the way she ties me down and runs my life. So don't ask me how I am, okay? I'm lousy and you don't care. Paula turned and walked away, but Veronica didn't follow her this time. At lunch, Ryan seemed to be having second thoughts. His older sister had just had a baby, and she had given him a breakdown on paper with some hard, cold facts on it. The cost of having a baby includes prenatal care and delivery by a medical doctor or a midwife, medication during pregnancy, charges for the labor room, supplies, lab work, nursery services, and the mother's room. Normal childbirth costs are expensive. Complicated pregnancy can cost 2 to 5 times as much. Maternity clothes for the mom aren't included. Once a baby arrives, she explained, you have to buy clothes, pay your medical expenses, and buy a bunch of nursery equipment. Babies went through 4 to 6 packs of diapers each month. Ryan didn't relish the idea of washing cloth diapers. And formula, which is necessary if the mom or baby won't breastfeed. As the baby grows, there are clothes, bibs, furniture, and lots of wipes. Formula is a decision. Concentrate and ready-made are very expensive, so powdered is usually the choice. Babies will typically go through 2 to 3 cans a week before they go on solid food. Daycare can run $100 to $200 a week, and relying on relatives for babysitting can be problematic, as Paula found out. Depending on the geographical area and other considerations, the cost of raising a child to age 18 is over $200,000. Veronica looked it over and gave it back to Ryan. I know it will be tough, but I know we can make it. We're not like Paula and Jerome. We love each other, and our love will make it work. But Veronica, if we're married, we'll be on our own, Ryan replied. I want to go to mechanic school. If we have this baby, I'll have to quit high school and get a job. And you'll also have to quit once the baby comes. I did some calculating. Remember the chart that showed incomes of people who finish high school compared with those who don't? Quitting school will cost us over $8,400 per year for the rest of our lives. For both of us, figuring a 40-year working life, that's over $336,000 apiece, or $672,000 combined, over $500,000. If we go to college or a trade school, the additional income can be over $17,000 per year for one of us. The total for that figure is way over $1 million for our lifetimes. I want our baby to have a good life, and we just won't be able to provide that if we do this now. We will also be throwing away our future. Veronica, honey, it doesn't make sense. The opportunity cost of this decision is just too high. Ryan went on. I know you're ticked at your mom, and I do love you, but this is not the way to solve the problem. I think you'd better go back and see if you can work something out with your mom. I'm not convinced that a star on your ankle is a good reason to have a baby. Veronica was pretty disappointed. She had this whole thing planned, and now Ryan was backing out just because of some silly numbers that his sister had given him. What did she know anyway? Over the next few weeks, she did see less of him, not because her mom said she couldn't see him, but because he seemed to have a lot of reasons why they couldn't have lunch together or meet after school before her aunt arrived. Maybe he didn't love her after all. Maybe he wasn't any different than Jerome. Maybe her mom was right about him. Maybe all men are pigs. In the meantime, Veronica and her mom had come to sort of an understanding. Her mom still hated the tattoo and would probably never get over it, but they had talked. Her mom recognized that Veronica was growing up, and that grounding was not a punishment to be used lightly. She had even lightened the sentence to 3 weeks, of which 2 were already over. They were not best friends as they had been in the past, but they were getting along better, and her mom agreed that Veronica could have a puppy.